Hello, class. Good morning. This day is going to be a short lecture. This is a continuation of post-conflict justice things. This Today is April 7th, and we'll be talking about the mobile court system in the Democratic Republic of Congo and also some other things. But this is an interesting one. For those of you who went to the film screening of The Prosecutors, you saw a glimpse of what the mobile courts look like in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And so keep that in mind. We talked about, in that lecture, we talked about some of the problematic things about the mobile court, but at the same time, the mobile court system was somewhat helpful in bringing perpetrators, particularly in the military, to justice. So if you click on that link for the mobile court system, I wanted to highlight a couple quotes in the beginning that I thought were important. Wherein the presiding judge at the Kamituga Mobile Court had said that this tribunal has had an impact. Sexual violence is serious. This crime is committed less frequently because of the impact of this tribunal. For a female attending a mobile court trial, she had said, because of the mobile court, women don't have to hide themselves away anymore. They are learning to go to the hospital to be checked. They are learning to go to the police to press charges. So it has had a mixed record. It's important to understand that this mobile court system is a state function, and really, if we were talking about the perpetrators in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the plurality of them, as we discussed in class already, were state forces, were military. So the army, right, the state army. So, however, despite some problems with impunity and everything, this mobile court system did have some very important consequences. So we learned in Lisa Jackson's documentary, The Greatest Silence, about the problem with impunity for sexual violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo, particularly where perpetrators are not held accountable. And we also discussed a little bit briefly about just the geography of the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, how it's very vast, and it's very difficult to access justice mechanisms in the provincial capitals, such as Goma and Bukavu. So, interestingly, I have a couple maps in our additional readings folder that you can look at just to get an idea, a glimpse again of the distance that people might have to travel to access justice. So, what the mobile court system in the DRC did was judges, prosecutors, and defense counsel would travel to dispense justice in remote areas of the Democratic Republic of Congo in the east. So this really helped. Now, if you were at the screening of The Prosecutors, you heard about the Minova trials. These were really disappointing, wherein many soldiers were charged with rape, and now some were convicted of other crimes, such as pillage and other crimes of violence, but pretty much everyone was acquitted of sexual violence, of rape, which was super disappointing. However, this post about the mobile court system talks about one important case in Fizi, wherein on New Year's Day in 2011, Congolese army soldiers raped dozens of women in the town of Fizi. Not 6 weeks later, a trial began. The colonel, Lieutenant Colonel Kibibi, was tried along with 10 other soldiers. He and 3 officers, Kibibi and 3 officers, were found guilty and sent to 20 years of prison. There were other sentences too. This was an important, a monumental case. And if you look at some of the pictures, you'll note how the Fizi trial was open to the public, and that's really important to tell the community that these crimes are not going to be, ignored anymore. It was important to have these in a public, open setting. These mobile courts not only were tried military cases, but they also tried civilian cases as well in certain circumstances. So these were an important mechanism. And particularly later on in the South Kivu province, there was, well, actually, contemporaneously, the article also mentions in the South Kivu province, where there were many cases tried, 248 cases, and 140 convictions for rape were handed down, which was significant. It is very significant. Um, so this is one mechanism that the state has instituted to punish perpetrators of sexualized violence, particularly in the military, but also civilians as well. And something that's interesting, an article we did not read from Boz and Stern. We read one article from Boz and Stern, but if you look in the additional folders, additional materials folder, you'll see another article that has much of the same research as the one we read already, but it had some other interesting. One thing in particular that I wanted to point out is one very interesting quote, and this was by some of the soldiers who talked about the importance. Some of the soldiers who were most implicated with regard to sexualized violence. These are some of the people that said it is important to have strong punishments for sexualized violence. So even the soldiers themselves who are most implicated in these acts have said, some of them have said, things would return to normal if you really make severe sentences the norm. I wanted to, on page 79, I wanted to read one of the quotes from an exchange between some of these soldiers. And I'll read this. This is on page 79 of the article. Male Sergeant A. To diminish rapes, you need punishments. It has to be severe punishments and public trials. If a soldier at Zeta military camp in Kinshasa rapes a woman, he should be judged there. They should expel him from the army there, take off his uniform, put him in the car, which transports him away, and everyone should be there to watch. Male Sergeant B. That will give a lesson to all the people that are there to watch him. Male Sergeant A. Yes, it has to be public trials. Today it is the trial of Corporal X. They should say to him, do you know that you took someone's woman with force? Yes, my commander, I know. He answers, do you know that this is forbidden in the law? Yes, I know. Okay, we will give you the death penalty. Maria, one of the people who were researching, but that is too much maybe. Male Sergeant A, laughing. It is just an example. Even 50 or 5 years. His wife will start to cry. His children will start to cry. Ah, Papa. Then the other people who are watching will understand. They will start to be afraid. Ah, so that is the way it is. Male Sergeant B. But the punishment also has to be severe, even 20 years. Then people will fear it. And so this really, remember how we were talking about the soldiers who were committing these crimes of sexualized violence with impunity. Even some of these soldiers, these sergeants, these two sergeants in particular, talked about the necessity for punishment for this crime to rid of the culture of impunity. There's also, in our additional folder article, there's also an Al Jazeera video with regard to the mobile court system, which I invite you to watch, but it is not required. So the next article that we're going to read today is Jocelyn Kelly's. It's a blog post, actually. Jocelyn Kelly has a fantastic researcher in the area of the Democratic Republic of Congo, and she had written a blog post with regard to the sentencing of the former Democratic Republic of Congo Vice President of Crimes Against Humanity and War Crimes in 2016 for crimes perpetrated by his rebel group, the Congolese Liberation Movement. And these crimes were actually committed in the Central African Republic neighboring the Democratic Republic of Congo. And he was convicted of rape for the rapes his soldiers committed, which is very important, this idea of command responsibility. So this became a very super important precedent as one of the strongest precedents to date on the international level, holding high-level commanders responsible for rapes committed under their command. Plus, it was the first international criminal court case that prosecuted sexualized violence as a war crime and crime against humanity. So it was super important. And there's a link embedded in this blog post, which has an article that I've used in my research about motivations to perpetrators in the Democratic Republic of Congo that you can read at your leisure if you're interested. And it kind of aligns with some of the things that we've talked about earlier. But anyway, so it was an interesting trial because at his trial, Bemba the one who was convicted, attempted to argue that he should not have to bear responsibility for the rapes that were committed under his command in the Central African Republic, the neighboring country, because he himself was still in the Democratic Republic of Congo. However, prosecutors were able to show that he maintained full control over his troops during this time, in 2002-2003 when the rapes were committed, so he was still legally culpable. This has wide-ranging implications. Jocelyn Kelly mentions Joseph Kony and the Lord's Resistance Army. One of you might be doing your research paper on the Lord's Resistance Army, I'm not sure. This is a rebel group that has committed horrific atrocities in the region in Central Africa. So and Coney, even though he's like widespread and diffuse, his rebel forces and everything, and he's very elusive. He has a strong command presence and tight control over his fighters, so it's very important. So I wanted to give just a little bit of summary of the readings for today. Now, this is going to be a very short video lecture. I am going to try to make some of these video lectures as short and summarized as possible. You will see future lectures that will be maybe 2 videos because there's only a 15-minute time constraint on these videos that I'm producing. So you may see not just 1 but 2 lectures, so watch them both. So anyway, so you'll read these articles and posts, and that's it for the 7th, and I will see you at our next module. Thank you. Bye.